again, it's another great day. Thank you to your team for this great work. We're really appreciative that you're picking topics that are very relevant to leadership. As you have alluded to severally, leadership has to take a new tone right now. Leaders have to think out of the box, possibly don't even break the box and create whatever they want to create. It might be a square, it might be a triangle, it might not be a box. But having information like this being shared, I know yesterday about mindset and how to kind of stabilize your mind was one of the topics that I heard when I jumped in for a few minutes. And my topic today is leading with distinction and empathy. It's a mouthful. You have to be distinguished and know that you're a person of distinction before you can lead with distinction. You can't give what you don't have. And you have to be an empathetic individual. You first have to know, what does empathy mean? Because empathy to everyone is different. So the next 45 minutes to an hour, I will be privileged to share in my own understanding on how leading with distinction and empathy can really be energy for all. As we know, a lot of developing nations, energy is a key thing for us, and energy in the physical and energy in the real practicality of things. My name is Remi Duyile, former Vice President of Bank of America, the founder of Legacy Premier Foundation, and I do wear a few hats. I double up as a professor, a role that I love so dearly. Looking forward to the beginning of the semester in another few days. So I'm excited that we get to reunite with our young leaders who are aspiring to be great and greater than all of us. None of you are fairly new to me. I am a speaker, coach, trainer, someone who has allowed my passion for what helped me back to be the strength that I use to pay forward and to play in the game of life. Life's game is a journey. There's never going to be a time that you stop learning. And the past few months since March, we all had to embrace a new norm. Some of us had a struggle with it. Some of us are still trying to figure, is this real or is it not? But if you are a leader who truly has responsibilities, you will clearly know that this is the new norm. Because by now, your shareholders will be asking you and say, Dr. Eno, what is going on? Am I going to get a dividend? Am I getting a check? Are you all splitting the shares this year? Am I getting anything, or is my money? You will be getting calls. Yeah. And a good leader clearly would not want those calls of people asking, am I going to get benefit for an investment that I entrusted in your hand? I don't need to be calling you. And I'm saying that to mean that an average leader has a responsibility that they have to deliver. That's just what it is. That's why they're in their role. Of course, some roles are very lofty and exciting, but at the end of it all, if you cannot deliver, if your shareholders or whoever entrusted that leadership baton in your hands cannot feel that you really are doing the job, they will have questions for you. And right now is not the time that you want to be queried. If you own a business yourself, this is the time you want to wear your creative hat, your creative thinking, your energy to really make sure that regardless of what is in your way, on your way, behind and above, you can skim through it, because results have no excuses. Everyone who you're accountable to is looking for a way to get a result that's very positive. So leading with distinction and empathy. What is empathy? Before we can even begin to say, oh, we're going to lead with empathy and distinction, we have to know what it means. And empathy is the act of validating the feelings of others and also show genuine interest in people. The underlining score there is validation. It's also genuine. Those are the words I'm going to really underscore, because you can say, oh yeah, I empathize as a leader, I do. how are you validating the feelings of others? You need to be able to listen to your employees, your partners, your collaborators. This is not the time that we stay still. Businesses are pivoting, but pivoting is nothing but strategy. An entrepreneur, a corporation that's evolving and is emerging and is growing would totally not have a close-up strategy. They will be flexible enough to know that if I'm in a different culture, I wear a different hat, I need to connect with those people who are players there. If I'm here, if I'm on this level, I need to connect. If I'm talking to those powerhouses, I need to connect and find things that would interest them. So from that perspective, your level of empathy has to be mainly on validation, because the way I want you to empathize with me might be different than somebody else. But when you are in a setting and you're dealing with maybe a middle level associates, you're dealing with the executives, you're dealing with the senior executives, the validation they expect from you will be different. And of course, they want it to be genuine. They want to hear the truth and nothing but the truth. Of course, the truth is bitter, but this is the time to speak it, because it is better now to speak it so that together we're all evolving, we're rebuilding, we're reshaping everything that has to do with leadership. Most leadership right now is remotely done. Does that mean they don't get results? Yes, they do. Because I took my toll and talked to a few people even before now, just to find out, how are you doing despite all of this craziness? Some days, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen, but you have goals, you have things that needs to be done. And some looked at me and said, Remi, you know what? We are doing more business with less now. I'm like, ooh, does that mean you're going to get rid of everybody? No, not from that context. And they said, no, but it just tells us there's so much that can be done. And do you know why? Because when you can empathize with people, when you can validate their feelings, the feelings can just be as simple as, oh, I'm going to be home with my child. Now you're a mother or father, you're taking care of your family. So you are working from home mostly. So it means that at some point there might be some need that will conflict with your commitment. Maybe your child runs in when you're doing a Zoom call like I'm doing. Thank God my kids are grown. They run in. It's not the end of the world. So an average leader who is on the other side should find a way, because already you know that individual is feeling like, oh my God, Debbie, what are you doing here? They're all probably nervous. But if they are performers within your company, you should not make it something that they feel ashamed about. Guess what? Their family is the priority. That's probably why they are doing the job that they are doing. They're trying to come out to provide for their family. So a great leader, or a leader who has that distinctive heart of empathy, should be able to validate that feeling. You know that individual will feel a little disconnected, like, oh my God. So that oh my God feeling, you should not let them end with that oh my God feeling, whereby they're thinking, oh, what is Dr. Terry thinking? What is Ambassador Hillary thinking? What is Dr. Kamala thinking? You know, so you're truly validating that it's okay. It's not okay that that individual will be doing it all the time, but you're making it say like, you know what, it's okay. You're validating the feeling that they're feeling, because you know what you will feel if you were in the shoes. And I have an example that I want to share. I had a girlfriend who was making a presentation some weeks ago, and she's a powerhouse doing her thing. And of course, she has a young kid. That's where this came from. And the kid just decided to scream or do whatever babies do. And then, of course, that will disrupt whatever presentation you're making. And all these big kahunas were already online. And she's a powerhouse. She's got the results. But this baby decided to scream because she wanted to be noticed. So immediately, what she noticed was how her superiors took it, how they embraced whatever that was. And some people said, oh, wow, I haven't heard a baby cry in a while. You know, just different comments from those who were on the meeting. And most of the time, if things like that are said, they're usually going to be genuine. Maybe some are grown. I could say that. I could say I've not had a baby cry in a long time. My baby is 25 years old. So I don't leave with a baby. So unless I babysit my nieces, my great nieces, and all of that, it's not an everyday cry that will wake me up. I love them to bits, but I send them home when they're done with me. So such a person has just displayed that, wait a minute, this happened. I didn't expect it to happen. You know what else they did? In that same tone of empathy, because I've decided that I'm going to share practical stuff as we speak, so that whoever would listen to this, the leaders, would understand that it's in the little stuff. That's where things happen. The little stuff is what make things happen. If you wait till the big stuff and you get angry about the little stuff, your teammates, the people who are under you will not feel that care that you technically should have. You will not have that. They won't feel that care of knowing that, yes, I want you to be this and that. It looks like my camera is not showing. Is it showing? Uh-oh, I did not mean to do that. What did I not do? Wow. Okay, let's see. Why can I not? I thought I could.
We are viewing you with empathy, mine.
I'm sorry?
We are viewing you with empathy.
Thank you. That was not intentional, honestly. I just started looking at my name like, where's my picture? Anyways, I will keep talking. I'm trying to figure why, because my picture was already on before we came and all that good stuff. Wow. Okay, so let's see. Video. Let's see how to get my video to show. I'm not trying to disguise myself. I'm still Remi. So anyways, this individual, I still can't figure why it's not showing, but I'm going to keep talking and trying to figure, because I don't want to stop the flow. So this individual eventually did what they needed to do. Host has asked you to start your video. Oh, did the host stop me from sharing my video before? Thank you, host. All right. So this individual, I feel better now, because I don't like it when I'm speaking and people can't put face to name. So thank you so much. So this individual, the boss who was the real boss, made a thing and said, you know what? It's okay. After she came back, she was all apologetic, and she still did a beautiful presentation. So it's okay. You can bring the stroller in here. You know, like the stroller, during your meeting, if she's sleeping, when she wakes up. So they were saying things. Some they might mean, some they won't. But in this particular case, they mean everything, because she still delivered. And she said, you know what, Remi, I felt so relieved, because first I was feeling embarrassed that how dare this baby. I said, you know, you can't control any baby, but that's what happens as a leader with distinction, as a leader with empathy. You want to make sure that you are genuine with your comments, and that you're not just looking at that immediate interruption, but you're looking at the overall picture of what is going to be delivered. And like I said, she nailed it, and she delivered what she needed to do, and that was what mattered, and they were able to do whatever they needed to do with the presentation and got good results. So we need to think beyond that immediate embarrassment. Like when I didn't see my picture, I didn't know that my picture wasn't even shown until I started seeing my name over and over, and I didn't see anything. So the old Remi will probably be quiet and not want to be able to say anything. But I'm like, what if you guys are even thinking maybe I didn't want to show? Because I did a program, and somebody said to me after the event, they didn't have their picture, and they said, oh, Remi, you didn't have my picture showing. They didn't show their camera. So I assumed it was one of those bad hair days or bad whatever they didn't want to show. And that wasn't the case. They did not know. So I had to figure out what to do after the whole Zoom program to see how do we use this picture and all of that. So I learned from that day that I'm just going to ask. So empathy helps leaders to understand the root cause behind the poor performance of an employee. Sometimes we know as people, we won't always perform to the best. And sometimes it's not because we don't know the how, but at that moment, we might be going through some problems. We might be going through some challenges. Maybe, God forbid, we just lost a loved one who maybe with all this pandemic, we lost a loved one. So we're still struggling with that loss, even though our intellect is as sharp as a razor, but our emotion is quite like, can I really live on? I'm still missing this person. So you won't know all of that unless you're a leader who pays attention to your group, who pays attention to how things around you works. Some days people think it's being nosy. No, it's just being understanding. It's being able to understudy, especially now with all of us, most of us doing remote work. And we will probably not see all of our staff on a regular basis. When we have those Zoom calls, some might decide they don't want to show their camera. That is not the time to beat them over the head. Some might not be able to show their camera. Maybe they are in a space that they don't have a background that they want to be displayed, or maybe they're having some distractions that they don't want to be on there. So if somebody is adamant about something right now as a leader, don't worry too much about the little stuff. The little stuff you can take offline to ensure that people understand why you feel the way you feel. Look, this is why I want you on the camera, so people can know, can see you and put the name to the face. That person sees like, oh, okay. You're not just saying it because I said so. You should tell me because you said so. Good for you. I don't want to show my camera, and I don't want to show my camera. But if you let me know the why, that's what an empathetic leader does. Empathy, again, helps leaders to build and develop relationships with those they lead. I remember in corporate America, when I was in my baby days and just growing up in corporate America, I remember that a lot of times you might have situations that you as an individual might figure that, you know what, I'm having time balancing home, getting a sick child that needs to go to the doctor, but you manage to brave in just so you can start the day and the business can start rolling in, and then you break in the middle of the day because you get a call from a babysitter who says, guess what, Remi, come pick up your daughter. And you have to quickly stop everything, and they want you to come pick up the daughter or the child. And then you come back the next day. And you, as a leader, who gave me permission to go and do what I need to do, I knew it was something that was kind of an emergency, because to me it is. My child is sick, fever, I have to run and go get it. Or anything, it could be anything. I know some of you are thinking, this doesn't fit me. Whatever you think is important, if you get a call and then you come back the next day and your boss doesn't even say anything about it. And this is me, I may be different, but I've taught this emotional intelligence and some trainings like this. And if I were in a public place, I'll say, can we raise our hands? How many of you will feel offended? Or if you left the night before, somebody is sick in the family and you come back the next day, your boss doesn't even validate anything. If I say, how many of you will feel that was not quite nice? A lot of hands will go up. All you have to say is, how is such and such? For me, that melts my soul. I feel like, wow, I am not just anybody. I'm a human being first, because you know that human being that made me leave everything and run out is important to me. They don't have to be important to you, but I am important to you because you want me to do what I'm doing, and I do my good job. So most of the time, we as leaders have to do the little stuff. So I come back the next day and you say, oh, Remi, how was Debbie? Trust me, for the rest of the day and forever, that kind of a person will be a leader that I will hold in high esteem. And I would always find ways to make sure that this leader succeeds, because our successes are interwoven. You could be the boss, I could be the subordinate. We have a common goal. We have a team goal. So my work is my work. Your part is what you can do. There's some things I can't figure out. I try, I just cannot. I just let it go. So those who can figure it out, go do it. Rather than me busting my tail and getting all stressed up for nothing. I just let them do it. And then I stay in my lane. And that's what happens when you are a leader who have distinguished yourself and having that empathetic heart of saying, you know what, things happen. and then you go on and you keep going. And that's really what happens. And the importance of leading with distinction and empathy is so important that I don't even know how to underscore that. Now that a lot of things are remote, a lot of things, people are kind of paying attention to your voice tonation, your posture, they don't know what to see. They don't know what you're up to. So they're trying really to feel you. How can they feel you? They can't see you physically. They can't touch you. They can only feel you through your actions, through your voice, your projections, and stuff like that. So when you know as a leader, this is the time that we need to work on our communication skills. I say communication skills, not communication skills to be the best speaker and all of that alone, but to be able to be a communicator. There are difference between communication skills and being a communicator. You want to be able to lay what your expectations are for your team, and you want your team to be able to be comfortable enough to express themselves, leave that room. Of course, do people make stories and some stories are not really true? Yes, but you're not trying to be there to say, I got you. You're not trying to be a detective, because if you want to see wrong in somebody, you're going to see nothing but wrong. But purpose your mind to say, I want to catch people doing right. I don't like to catch anything negative. If I had my way, I wouldn't. And my students know. So I give people the opportunity to redeem themselves, because I know you can do better. And by the time you start saying that positive and giving them that positive energy, I know, John, you can do better. You could do a better paper. Come on. Did you not spend more than 1 hour to do this paper? Do you think if you spend 4 hours, maybe you do a better paper? So you're now putting the ball in their court in a jovial but not threatening way. Like, your tonality is important. And as leaders, and I'm thinking leadership, not just in the corporate, you lead from your home. You lead yourself. We all led ourselves to be on this call now. We didn't have to be here. We could have probably done so many other things. So you had to budget the time of the day to say, you know what, I'm coming to this to get information, to support the organizers, to support the speaker. It was a choice that you took. So, and that's what matters as leaders. The little stuff that you do for people, people will think of it and they will forever want to support you. And Forbes says that empathy is one of the 5 core essential cognitive capacities that any leader must have. I can't agree with that more. If they must move from being a good leader to being a great leader, because there's a clear difference between good and great leader, and great leaders will have followers who are also leaders. They are also helping to shape other leaders. A great leader is someone who builds succession, who knows that somebody has to take over. They're not seeing their subordinates as a threat. They see them as value. They see them as someone that they can have a pride and joy, a bragging right, by showing them what they've learned, so that it doesn't become that when they leave, when they vacate their space, no one can do it. What is the point of building a legacy that nothing and no one can sustain? So good leaders think big picture. The great leaders think big picture, and they know that the little stuff is what makes them great. It's not just the title, it's the little stuff, not all the magical gymnastics that they do, the big phonetics or the affluence of how they appear and everybody's shaking around. That's not what matters. What matters is, how do we touch the hearts of the people that we deal with? How do we do that? And I discovered Emotional Intelligence book by one of my old mentor, who was my boss at my old Bank of America, as a young professional, who said, go read this book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. That has been a book that I've read over and over and over. It's just right next to my Bible. Anything I do, it comes from this book. I'm not paid to show this, but this is a book that works all the time. How did it happen? It's like, okay, Remi, you need to read a book on emotional intelligence, because there were some attributes of things he was seeing that he needed to underscore more. And I said, oh, first I thought it was emotional, meaning maybe I was exhibiting something that wasn't quite positive, and I didn't really know why he was suggesting that. But my curious self said, okay, I'll do that. And I went and looked for the book. I couldn't find the book because I thought he said, Daniel, Coleman, Coleman, boy, it's Goldman. So I came back and said, Tom, I didn't find the book. Said, what book? And I told him, he said, no, it's Goldman. So he gave me the book. So this book will teach you the step-by-step of empathy, why it is important. Empathy is a skill that helps a leader to lead with distinction. And I was saying earlier when I opened up, what is distinction? Distinction is relevant to the individual. If you do not live a life of distinction in your own level, don't think distinction means you have to be the one with the best car, the best bank account. No, I'm talking of distinction in terms of impact, in terms of effect that you put on people, so that everybody sees that they can also aspire. A leader should create an environment where people can aspire to be, knowing that if you're a leader that wants to change the world, that wants to make the world a better place, you cannot do it alone. There's no way. You're not going to be able to do it alone because you are just one person and you need so many other people. And with this pandemic and the need to learn new tools in the area of technology and so on and so forth, you've got to team up. And that takes me to the young leaders who are there. The young leaders, the millennials, these are people who are born around technology. That's what they live and breathe. And before now, we would say, oh, you're too busy on this and you're too busy on that. Listen, when we see them do it now, we'll probably say, do you need an upgrade to your laptop? Do you need a knife? We're trying to give them more gadgets because we are now testing the value of what it means to truly be in a digital age. And if we didn't have all of this stuff, we would have never been able to kind of change and be able to do what we're doing now. And how do you improve your empathy? And people, all of us, I believe, have that seed of empathy in us. That seed is already in you and I. But how do we display it? How do we engage so that people know? Because all our styles of dealing with people who are different. Some people, you cannot ever get them to crack a smile. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just, again, I don't know why, but it's just something that is not their natural being. I have friends who, they're not usually the smiley type, but they are so good that you have to understand that it's just not them. This is where Remi, it's just not one of the things that I'm comfortable. I mean, I just never did it. And I don't mean any harm. And I know they don't because I relate to them. So we have to understand people's situation. We have to listen. How can you listen? How can somebody listen? You have to ask questions. If you're not talking to me, what am I listening to? So rather than you building stories, fabricating things within you, listen to someone talking to you. You are a leader out there, and you have a lot of subordinates, a lot of middle level, low level, even senior level. You're going to be getting people talking to you about different things. And they're going to talk to you about different things because human beings just like to fabricate stories. We just believe in story fabrication so we can inch our game. And that is not the way to inch any game. But can you change everybody from doing the office politicking? No. Even working from home, some people are still playing the politics. When they are bored and not doing their work, they're calling somebody. And when they call, you know they're maybe slightly bored and they're asking you things that don't concern you. You need to quickly disengage. But if somebody now comes to you and says something, listen, but don't quickly judge. Don't judge. Try to get the facts. Because once you make your judgment before the person gets a chance to vindicate themselves, then you've just decided their fate without trying them. And that's never fair. And that will never strengthen your team, because the whole essence of what we're talking about is so that we build teams that can be strong enough to help to take care of our goals and our aspirations as a company, as a school, as whatever is important to us. And we don't want to interrupt. I'm speaking right now. All of you are listening to me. There will be time for Q&A. Of course, if you decide you want to ask question now, I can politely say, may you please wait till the end of the program, because that's how the organizers want it. And you would understand that, right? And that's really what happens. You want to make sure when there's a turn for you to do your thing, do it. Don't interrupt others. And that is how I became someone that would write a little mini agenda in my corporate life, because I was someone with 4 strikes. I tell this all the time, Black, female, Nigerian accent. So I was growing in corporate America. And of course, I was eyeing the highest I can eye, which was being a vice president, which I did. So, but I had to make sure that, and I wasn't a speaker at a point. So the tendency is that those eloquent speakers want to tell my story, right? They want to just think that they know what I did, and they can't do it. So at the end of the day, they will say things and I won't be able to put my 2 cents in. And it became a problem for me. But I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to shut these people up. That's just their nature. Some people are just butterflies. They just going to talk and talk and talk. They don't mean any harm. It's just their lifestyle and they're used to it. So, but you cannot let them use their style of life to shut you down or to shut you up. So what I did in my own case was to draw up an agenda. So when it was time for my review with my big bosses, because I already know what I wanted, I knew what I did, I'll send an agenda and I'll say, Remi, what is this? This is my agenda. These are things that I want to talk about after we finish the main agenda, because I realized that after they did the agenda with me and tell me how good I did, they didn't touch on what is the next steps. What should I be doing to be an assistant vice president? What should I be preparing for to be a vice president? I wanted to hear that now, not when it's almost a year. And if I didn't ask, because my career was in my hand, that was my life journey. It was nobody's journey but mine. And I know I was good at what I was doing for them. And an average leader might not want you to leave because they like the dependability of knowing that you're going to show up and do your thing, but that should not stop you from moving. So I would get interrupted over and over. And, you know, I'm very respectful because I don't like disrespect. So I try to make sure I do what I expect. So at the end of the day, I leave and I won't be able to get my 2 cents. And you might never get that one-on-one again soon with such great big leaders who truly can design your faith. So I would say, oh, here's my agenda. And we would talk about it. My agenda wasn't anything long. It was the same mundane question. So now, Tom, now that you said I walk on water, I have my 5, 6, and all this good stuff, what do I need to do to be an officer of the bank? What do I need to do to be an assistant vice president of the bank? What do I need to do to be a vice president? What are the goals? So I'm breaking it down, even though they might not be thinking about it, but immediately they're thinking, this girl is not just looking at she's not a myopic individual. She's a big picture thinker. So they know how to give you assignments that will expand you because they know what you deserve and what you want. And which was cool for me because then I know my expectations, what is expected of me, because I don't like surprises, especially when I have control of things. If you let me know if I can't do it, at least I'll know I've tried. So interrupting was something that I had to find a way to get around. So as leaders, not everybody will be a crazy Remi that would have an agenda, or some leaders might not even embrace it. But in my case, it wasn't an option. It was it was just a subtle way that I tried to make sure I presented what I wanted, because I was a very hardworking young lady, and it showed, and they knew that if I had to do something, they can count on me and so forth. So I had that luxury to be able to ask 1 or 2 things, just so my career path will be online. Be fully present. We're all fully present now. We're listening to this conversation. Not that you haven't heard some of this, or maybe all of it. You've heard it. Some of the examples verbatim you might not have heard, but you're still very present because you're making eye contact. Those of you that I can see on camera, you're making eye contact. I can see that you're listening to me. And that's very important. That's how you know that you want to improve your empathy. But if somebody is speaking to you and you have 4 phones, because I won't mention any country, when you're speaking to them, they have 2, 3, 4 phones, and you're there right there, and they're answering the phone every minute. gets under my skin. You need to be fully present because it's just not right. How many minutes do you need to spend with that individual? When you really look at what they need and how you need to engage and disengage with them, maybe max 5 minutes. First, you spend 2 hours to wait for them. Then the next few hours, when you finally get to meet the person, they're texting or they're answering the phone, and it's not just one phone, it's 3, 4, and there's so many interruptions. We have to be fully present. That's how we're going to maintain quality people. I know you can say, oh, I'm in charge, they have all this. No, good people will leave. I do not tolerate when people, to me, that's a sign of disrespect, if you ask me. You shouldn't do that. You should not be changing your phone and talking and letting the person sit there and eventually might fall asleep just sitting right at your desk. Let's not do that. That will not keep us, that will not help us keep good people. Don't be judgmental. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Being judgmental, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. So I should not be judging others. I should be thinking that give them the benefit of the doubt. Lay the facts. You don't have to agree with all the facts that you see. You can question the fact. There might be a meaning behind the meaning, and there are reasons why things happen. Am I saying that everything that happens are supposed to happen the way it is? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying 2 wrongs won't make a right. So if you're a leader who wants to build a team, and you don't want to just be flopping, changing different people here and there. This one comes today, you train them, then you go to another. Don't be judgmental. Try to be, for the lack of better word, someone that wants to cohabit with everyone in a way that everyone that walks with you, for you, by you, know the expectation. They know the rules of the game. And be fair. Make it transparent. Make it just open so that people can know. And give people the opportunity to be truly interested in people. Don't fake it. If you're not interested in people, they will know. They will know that you're not interested in them. And when you're not interested in them, you will still listen to them. But if you're not interested in me, I know. I know immediately, and I disconnect. I still will serve whatever is bringing us together. But in my mind, I already checked you. You're definitely not in my kitchen cabinet. You're not in my network of people that I can pick up the phone. I know we're still going to be, that's the word my niece says, acquaintance. When I say, oh, somebody is your friend, the auntie, they're my acquaintance. So I know immediately that such a person is my acquaintance. They will still be on the good list, not that they will be in bad list. I just won't stop everything and jump and say I want to be part of what they do, because if you're not interested in me, and I'm serving you, that means we're using each other. And we don't want to do that. So as leaders, you want to make sure you show true interest. And when I say interest, I'm not saying be nosy, get into their business. What did they eat for dinner? Which church did they go to on Sunday? Not that. Be simple enough. How is your family? Or like I said, the example I gave earlier, that if somebody was called from work whose daughter or son was not feeling well, and they ran out of the office to go take care of that. When they come back the next day, it's nothing wrong in you saying, oh, Remi, how is Debbie? That will, like I said, it makes you joyous. That's showing interest in people. That's a very simple example. Does it cost any money? No. Does it cost even a minute? Probably not. It probably doesn't even take a minute, because you're quickly saying it and going about. I know some people will say, oh, boy, Remi, if I start that conversation, there's some people that want to whine and quick going. And you don't leave room for that. You're speaking and you're walking. Say, oh, Debbie, Remi, how's Debbie? I hope she's feeling better. Before I even get a chance to say, yes, thank you, you're already moving. They know you're not there to chit chat. I'm not trying to find out what did you do for the weekend. So you're moving. And when I was in corporate America as a manager, when I was in a particular branch, I know people like office politicking. And one thing I didn't really like, because it wastes a lot of time and you never gain the time back. And at the end of the day, nobody is happy. So I never wanted to, I go straight to the horse. If I have something to say to you, I'm coming to you and I'm risking everything. And I will say it nicely. So that was always my strength, to be able to present my case nicely. It might never be received as nicely, but I will not be disrespectful. And when you do that, it just makes people to know you're not going to be in that grapevine. So you say it and you keep moving. And people would say, oh, Tom asked about Debbie. I didn't even know he remembered I was called from work. That's just my own little joy of knowing that that you see Remi as a human being before the role that I have. Lead from within. Oh my goodness, this is so important. You've got to lead from your heart. Your heart. If you lead from your heart, you will reduce a lot of mistakes. You will avoid so many things that will create problems for you. It's got to be from within. You make sure that you are intentional, because when you lead from the heart, there are things you are doing intentionally. Like I said earlier, you are in a setting as a leader, leading an environment or a department or a district. You carry positivity and you make that your hallmark. They know when Dr. Eno shows up, everybody's going to smile, say, how are you? You're randomly looking at people that don't even have the high status of credentials in your organization. You start from the gate man to the driver and everybody, that the cleaning people. You're literally validating everybody. And you say, how are you? You don't have to do it for a long time. When you're coming, every time you come, they're going to be looking forward to it, that you're coming. But if you just go in and rush in and you rush out and they're trying to greet you, you can't even notice. People notice. People are human beings. Trust me, every human being matters. Because the one you see that's all that today might be nothing tomorrow. So life is a journey and things go around. So you just want to make sure that you create that environment where when you're coming, people know you're going to be real, you're going to be embracive of whatever you're there for. And empathetic leader and energy development. We added this, and energy is contagious. When you are a leader that has energy, you notice that there's so much that comes naturally to you. You might never see a dull moment, but you're not as tired as people will think you should be, because you're leading from your heart. You are carrying things from your heart and bringing it out. So when you're concerned about humanity, and I want to take energy to another level of thinking of energy in terms of for those of us who are in developing nations, energy is something that's very critical to us. Without power, we can't do our phone charging and so on and so forth. So a true leader who is driving any humanitarian aspect of their corporation will ensure that they have sustainable energy, that there are things that will make your office functional. And when you can influence it, you will make it functional for your associates, so that it could be a group. I know here in America, when you're part of a big company, there's some companies where when you have services with them, there are discounts that you get because you're part of such an umbrella. So it's just that kind of going out of the way. And sometimes as leaders, we might not think of it because we're not thinking of the little stuff. But the little stuff is what the staff who is building the big stuff will be going to. They're going to a home that probably would not have the capacity for them to charge their phone when they get home, the capacity for them to have a renewable energy or something. But if we as leaders think of it and find this portable solar energy and use it as an incentive to say, you know what, you energize us, you get the results done. We want you to do this. If for nothing, there's solar power energy portable that you can give, and they will charge up to 4 to 5. Such an associate, wouldn't they want to just jump up and down and just keep serving you? Yes, they will. And leaders of nations and thought leaders in the energy sector, we can harness these possibilities of energy, because when there is a drive to make the world a better place, there's some little stuff that you and I can think about. We know people who know people. And as a leader, you're not selfish. Don't think about just your branch alone. If you're part of a corporation, think from the perspective that I own this corporation. Don't think of it that, oh, it's just my department. Once we meet, that was it. You will not be findable in another department. People are watching everybody. We are all on the World Wide Web, WW world. So everything we do, it's clear, it's open. So when we now go to that level of that empathetic leadership style, we're not just going to think about the immediate needs in the office. We're going to think about the immediate needs of our associates. It could be as simple as a renewable solar portable energy that will help you to be able to do whatever you need to do all the way. And the way forward is to ensure that when we do these things, we create energy affordability, we create accessibility. Reading something before now that there's some energy options, especially in Nigeria, that they're looking at. And we need to, as employers, we need to get into such so that we can look beyond just what we need to power our offices, our department. What can our associates take home as a portable charger that's a renewable that we can give as incentive so that they will never have a dead phone. They can get on Zoom, they can get on this, because this is what we're here to do. This is a new norm. We're gonna be doing a lot of Zooming, Teams, webinars, GoToWebinar, you name it. There's so many names out there. I don't remember all of them because I'm not super techy, but the few that I know is just a few. So when you want somebody to join, how are they going to join? You want them to go to a center? What do you call it? There's a center where people, a center where they go, like a center that's not private, and your information will be public there. So you should find a way to equip them in a minimal way so that they can use it and use it for themselves. So that is my presentation for today. And I know that I've said a whole lot. I'm watching my clock too. I want to be able to just say thank you for this opportunity, and I welcome your questions. So I'm all yours for questions and answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Remi. That was off the hook. Wow. Thank you, thank you. Any question, please? Any question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Remi, outstanding. What a relevant topic for today's society and for business. And for those who are seeking mentorship, or where am I now, and where should I be going, and what should I be thinking, and who should I talk to? This was a beautiful presentation. It's going to remain relevant for some years to come, because I think this is the message that's relevant for society as a whole. And that's not only be present when you speak with somebody, but be respectful of them. It's beautiful, beautiful words, beautiful presentation.
Thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate it.
Okay, any question?
Okay. Are there any other questions? Comments?
Comments, questions?
Queries?
Queries, well.
Okay, so I have a comment.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, so very, very relevant presentation, especially for the oil and gas industry. I've been fortunate to be a part of the industry for about 5 years or thereabouts. One of the areas that we recently have tried to focus on is the area of care, because of course many times when the need for production priorities are brought forward, it sometimes take away the human part of managing people for them to be very productive. So we have started, especially those of us who are in HSC, Safety and Environment, we have started incorporating in very rapid senses the need for us to show care when we drive policies. So it's not about just being a coach and a commander, but also a mentor and a friend, so that people, besides them just looking at you as somebody giving them instructions, they are seeing you as somebody who cares about what they feel and how they feel it. So I think this is a wonderful presentation for me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josiah, for that contribution.
Any other questions?
Okay, we have comments here on the chat box. I'm beyond impressed.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Madam Remi. I'm inspired and,
Oh, thank you.
and mentored. Okay, that's great. Very well done.
Thank
Simple,
you.
concise, and impactful. Thank you for the examples of how to
Thank
present
you.
your agenda and not being myopic. Great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Dr. Kamala, please go ahead with your question. You have a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening, all. So it was really great, speaking here about the good inspiration here. I'm really so happy for being among the ambassadors here. But I have a question. I don't know. That's my question about that. What's the best advice for new learning and the new young leaders? For example, I can tell about myself. I'm a little bit shy, but I'm trying to not to be shy, and I love to hard working on my presentation, how to do like great presentation about young leaders. But what's your advice, like for the new young leaders, like shy people?
Sure. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. That is a good one. Talking to a shy person, like if you were there when I started, my speaking today is from fear. My fear turned to passion for me. I migrated to the US when I was age 17, and I've been here for over 30 something years. And of course, shyness, if you want a middle name for somebody, that will be my middle name. Because coming here, I didn't have to really do so much. In my home country, I was cared for. I didn't have to force about anything. So naturally, I got what I needed. So I didn't know like that you had to fight for life. So that came about, and baby of the family too, that tops it. So it made them to all want to do everything for me. But when I got here, it became something that I needed to do. So what you need to do is identifying with your need. And that's the first thing I did, because I knew I was not usual. I was unusual. I would do all the work, but I didn't want to express myself. In meetings, people who were not doing the work were trying to tell my story. So I was angered by that. So what did I do? I realized that number one, like you said, you're shy. I was you are shy. Mine was very, 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 very shy, and had to go find out how do we go get a voice. So I went and took some training classes. My company didn't pay for them because that was none of their business. They know that whatever role I needed to deliver, I was equipped for that. But the speaking role, whether I can tell my story or not tell my story, wasn't there. So I had to invest in myself. I started with the Dale Carnegie. In this day and age that are information all over, then I went to the Les Browns and all of that. You've identified what you see as a need. I won't even say a problem because it's not. Trust me, when you start, you're going to love it. And not everybody will be a public speaker. Well, I believe every human being should be able to present their case. Whatever they have to say, they should be able to say it confidently. And once you do that, you get the training, get the knowledge, whatever your area of expertise and things that you're passionate about, get information about it. So that helps you to build your content and surround yourself by positive people, people who are go-getters and they know that a lot of things are possible, who are unstoppable. And when you do all of that, you start building your confidence. And once you build your confidence, you see your content, you can leverage people who do content, whatever, then you practice. You practice. No speaker doesn't have a butterfly. You have this butterfly in your stomach whenever you have to speak in front of people. So being able to identify that you have a need is the number one. And I think you're already a winner for knowing that that's the need that you want. I don't know if that helps you, Kamala.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I have to hard working on this. Yeah, I have to avoid of the shying. Yeah, like to be the confident, to believe and to trust myself. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Great. Mr. Demola, you have a question, please. You can go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Oh, sorry. Let me get
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Such an
Such a great presentation. Thank you, Dr. Remi. And thank you, Dr. Eno Praise, and everyone here. I'm so glad to be here this evening, and I've learned a lot. But I have a question. When you were talking about empathy in leadership and all that, in Africa, where I live, here in Nigeria, people tend to take you for granted when you show too much of empathy. When you are the leader, at the same time, you're trying to ensure they are fine, of course, officially, or try to be a friend. They don't, I think maybe is Africa not yet matured for that? Or how do we balance that? How do we balance that?
Yeah, thank you so very much, Mr. Demola. I had a privilege of working in Nigeria for 5 years in the governmental space. And I believe that there's nothing as somewhere being right or the other. It depends on the culture that you create in that environment. The fact that you are a listener to someone who you know is saying something and you're giving them the respect and being interrupted when you're talking to them and not checking your phone and all of that, it sets the tone for your environment. Of course, other people might not be able to do it, but if you propose that you want to make that a culture in your environment, you can be an empathetic leader and be tough. I was a no-nonsense person. Nobody dared to mess around with me, even though I like to listen, I like to do whatever I needed to do. Just let people know. I don't believe that we can say, oh, Nigeria is not right for it. It's a human thing. We're all human. So to me, every nation should be right for it. It depends on how you are willing to work at it. Is it going to be easy? Maybe not. Are there people who will try to take advantage? When they do, then you call them out. You hold them accountable. Whatever the repercussion of what they need to do that they didn't do is, just follow the policy that you've set. So nobody says, oh, I've done this. If you say 3 strikes, you're out. If somebody is constantly coming to you, having stories about why they can't do what they're supposed to do, you can say, okay, this is your number 2 and document it. 3rd time, you've said this, so you might need to be transferred somewhere else. Or something else might need to give way because apparently you're not understanding the importance of the work. And I've tried humanly possible to hear you out, but I have work to do, right? You have goals to meet. So you can't be mean. Being mean is not going to make you get work done. You're just going to have people coming in and out. You keep flopping people who will be your employees. I know it's tougher, but I know people who are doing it. And I know I did it when I was there and I work in the government. So it's just what the leadership tone that you dictate, that you set, and you live by it, and you're fair. It's not like someone comes and you pull them and talk to them, and they tell you one story, you go on to the other. You are like open to everyone and set the rules and make sure whoever will be your accountability partners, maybe your subordinates or your co-workers, let them understand the vision to why you're doing what you're doing and be strict about the enforcement. They mess up, whatever you say the repercussion is, that's it. If they keep telling you the same thing and they can't do anything, 3rd time, if it means they're out, then they're out. Or if it means they need to go to another department where they will be bored silly, then you move them to that department. You're not there to be friends with people. You're there to be friendly so that you can be approachable enough to get the job done. That's my opinion on that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Demola. I hope that was answered.
Very well, very well, very well. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Joy K, you also have a question. Please go ahead. Joy K, you can go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Eno, and thank you, Dr. Remi. This has been very, very informative. I've appreciated the session. I was just wondering, how do you find the balance between, you talked about the story fabrication and showing empathy?
Right. Yeah.
Because sometimes as a leader, I struggle with that. You know that maybe someone's not being honest about what they're saying, but you still want to show empathy. So how do you balance that?
Yes. Thank you so much. And that doesn't happen as frequently, even if we want to be true to ourselves. But there are some people who have mastered your style, and they want to use that to get away with whatever they want to get away with. How you balance that? I mean, storylines that are constantly, if somebody is constantly coming up with things that are always giving excuses, and you have to say, there's going to, you have your set time of how many excuses can you make. All of us can sit and make excuses to why we can't do what we're supposed to do on time, everybody. And that's the way I start. I said, listen, we know that all of us have reasons why we can't do what we're supposed to do. But guess what? What if these other people don't show up? And you assume somebody's going to show up. What if nobody shows up, especially if they're coming late and something, and they don't show up and it's just me? You can assume the manager or the leader will be there. So if the others don't show up, how are we going to open? And you get it so firm, so they begin to see how their action and inaction is affecting the team. And then you go and say, I hear you, I feel for you. You have to take care of your kids or whatever the reason they, because people tend to use that a lot. Oh, my child is sick, and I'm not saying they're lying. But when you have a job that you're responsible to do, you will reduce your excuses. And that's the way you tell the leadership material in people. I just let them know, listen, I hear you. This is the second time. I feel for you. I'm sorry that Debbie is sick and it's an ongoing thing. Have you tried to see how to find someone who can sit home and be with them? I'll try to say, have you thought about other alternatives? Then I can use myself as an example, if it's an example that I can relate, because I was in nursing mother, regular mother till my kids grew up in corporate America. And I didn't use any excuses. When they're sick, I would still take them, give them the medication, quickly drop them off, and then pick them early, because I know work had to be done. Because in my case, I was eyeing being a vice president, and you can't make excuses when you're trying to rise up. You got to be able to show up and say that you can do it. So those people who make stories, they're going to make stories, and you know them, you're right. But you don't want to think that they cannot change over a new leaf. They will change over a new leaf, because you will state your fact. I feel for you, I hear you, I really feel for you, but you know I've got work to do too. You know we have goals to meet, and I'll state whatever those things are. And you know I mention my boss's name if I have to, and you know Tommy's going to come down. What do you expect me to tell when we can't meet our goals just because we keep seeing the same pattern? So one thing would happen, or two, they will shape up or shape out, because they know they've tried your last nerves, and they know the next time you're going to write them up and get their, you know what, transferred or get out. So they will quickly start looking for somewhere else they can go play their game with somebody, another manager or another leader who they can be gullible till they catch them being not truthful. And that's really what you can do. But you cannot use that as a way to think everybody else is making up stories. I just draw the line after the second strike. Third strike, you're coming with me with story, because I'm documenting all your stories. I'm not just listening to you. I'm documenting the stories, and you're signing, you're dating it. And I'm telling you, this is what you did the first time. It affected us this way. If you do it the third time, do you want me to get fired? I need my job. I hope that you help us keep our jobs. And if they don't, they already know they won't let the third time happen. They will start looking for transfers. And if they don't get a transfer, they resign, or they shape up and start doing what they're supposed to do. Because we have a job to do. It's not being mean. It's just I'm trying to protect my own job too. So I don't know if that answers your question, Joy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, great. Thank you, Joy. Dr. Edema, you have a question. Please go ahead. Dr. Edema, please go ahead. We can't hear you. Okay, while you're trying to figure out your microphone, Tilda, you have a question. Please go ahead with your question.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for the very beautiful presentation. So my question is, I run a pretty small enterprise startup, and what I do is administrative, secretarial, and secretarial work and performance management for startups in Zimbabwe. And I've noticed that it's a really huge gap for startups because of a startup that failed that I started because I couldn't do sales, but I was very good with the internal work. So it crumbled and failed naturally. So I did notice that a lot of startups, especially in Zimbabwe, because of unemployment, they do start going with starting their own businesses without the know-how of how to run it internally. So they end up falling and failing, or just continuously starting something new every 2-3 years. So because of that huge gap, whenever I do engage people and try to use the connections that I have for the benefit of the people I work with, I do realize people tend to then say, oh, that's a really great initiative. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to do this. So eventually, in a space of a year, I felt like it started to become a bit overwhelming, the opportunities that were open for them, the opportunities that opened up for me. So my question is it okay to put certain really good opportunities on hold until I feel that I'm ready to take it on? Maybe I have the time to take it on, I have the workforce to take it on, or should I figure out a way to take advantage of those opportunities and just run with the pace, however fast it may be? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congrats on all your great work and initiative. From a consulting perspective, what I would suggest is you've got to build capacity first. I would say build your capacity before you take on, because that's your brand, that's your integrity that's going to be on the line. As much as all of the other things sound exciting and looks lucrative, you could start, and then if you're not going to be able to sustain it, that might ruin the brand that you are building. So I would say build capacity to its entirety to an extent so that you phase it out and have priority areas and do a darn good job with that, and then just begin to scale up gradually. That would be my advice.
Fantastic lecture, and I think this is valuable not just for the organizations we lead, but in the society at large, especially in emerging economies, in the global south, where value-centered living is a necessity. As a leader, how do you create an ecosystem of empathy? You spoke about it from the individual's view. If possible, what steps will you take to reorient your own mind, their minds, and that's the mind of your people, the people you're working with?
Yeah, thank you so much. And we know how we all are when there is incentivizing mechanism put in place for a particular behavior. What we've done in my past lives and my own entities, creating, if there's a behavior you want to encourage, you can create incentive measures to ensure that that is done. So that means you want to catch people doing the right things. Remember, empathy is about you really listening to people and feeling for them. And even when they tell those cock and bull stories, you don't quickly say, I gotcha. You're still giving them the better benefit of the doubt. So the ecosystem, the way to build such an ecosystem, number one, you have to make your stand clear, bold, and loud. And you, as the leader who is taking that stand, you've got to be determined. It's not going to be easy because you are going to have to change people's mindset. And the best way to affect people's mindset is through your actions. When people begin to see you taking those steps, doing things that are not the norm, and that they know it's not you, but it's hard and you're doing it consistently, they won't have a choice but to follow suit. Then on that, you will have some accountability partners. In your corporation, let's say you have different departments, you want to make sure that the leaders, maybe a train the trainer, lead the leaders kind of a thing. So all the heads of your division understand this culture that you're trying to imbibe, and they are ready to put their hands on it. And you ask them, what can you do in your area to ensure that empathy is incentivized? That's the first step, because when you talk about incentive, people are going to jump and want to be part of it. Especially now, the things they're supposed to do, there are things they were supposed to have been doing anyways. But if they now do it consciously, you're saying, oh, maybe you can come 1 hour later than you're supposed to get to work at 10, come at 12. You don't have to go and break the bank and spend all the monies you don't have. You just have to do some creative things and say, oh, you can come in late, or you can have a half a day, or you can have a ticket for, I don't know, maybe a gift card for an eatery. I'm not sure. Whatever is feasible that's not bank breaking. Because when I tell people about this, they're like, oh, budget. It's not something that will break any budget. Mm-hmm. Simple stuff like that will help you. So get your leaders acclimatized with this new culture that you want to imbibe, and you better be ready to lead it, because they're going to be watching you every minute. So when you constantly lead it, your other armies will be able to join, and then they design incentives, and you incentivize those people who are leaders in those departments. Whoever can catch them doing good things, whoever has the most that they've incentivized for doing the right thing, they get something. So everybody has a win in it. And then if you have money, then you throw out a big thing and say, well, whoever wins. That's how competitions are made. I was one of those people in the competition with my corporate world. We create that before you know it. Everybody is getting a win. Some people get 2 hours early departure, early arrival. Some get money. So it's different tiers. But guess what is happening? You're shaping the behavior. You're shaping their mindset. You're shaping them. And then it becomes a habit. And then they love it. And then you're happy. And business grows, right? Because that's the bottom line too. It affects you. I don't know if that helps you, Dr. Edema, I think. Or, I don't know.
Yes, it does. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, I know. I tried. I was wondering. I was like, what's going on? Thank you so much, ma'am. You really hit the nail on the head. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Tita, you said you had another question. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. So my question is, because of my involvement with the work that I do with government, with certain media houses and private voluntary organizations, where I volunteer and attend meetings and dialogues and all of it for a while now. It's been years. I know a lot of people where there's opportunities, especially with private voluntary organizations and sometimes with government, where there are opportunities for the small businesses that I work with to really hit a gold mine financially for them, but at the same time also make an impact in the community. But that is a message I have not been able to drive to them for a while now. I'm still very, I haven't been operating for a year yet. It'll be a year in November, but I feel that is something they absolutely need to consider, is in as much as I want to make a profit, in as much as I want to make money, how can I give back to the society? How can I build a community? How can I meet a need? And how can I be part of the conversation of transformation and development? Because it then becomes difficult for me to even represent them in policy dialogue, so that they can be some effect to certain policies and to certain regulations if they're not present as well in such spaces as community development. So how do I hammer that in their heads that it is very important and very crucial for their brands to be recognized for making a huge impact?
Yes. Thank you so much. I know you have a young company, but it's not just about the years your company has been in existence. It's the experience you bring in that made you to say, I have this passion, I'm going to birth this. And when you serve, you're going to get. So you have to have that model, especially in our emerging economies. You have to have that mindset of service to get it. Because these people, you would need to design things that will come to their level. When I say their level, not to downgrade anyone, everyone has different levels based on their exposure, their experience, their understanding. So I would suggest that you find what levels are they, so that when you're bringing information, resources to them, you come to their level. You cannot talk over their level, because if you talk over their level, they won't get those nuggets. So you have to find, how do you build so that within their level, and they're going to grow to the whatever level you want to take them, but take them to that level whereby they understand you verbatim without any mix, without them feeling ashamed to express how they feel. Because it's like you're teaching them. It's like having someone in school from grade 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. So you're going to take it like a business. I mean, like a project, a humanitarian project, to groom these people and know what are the expectations you want from them, so that you set it to their level and make sure that they can accomplish it. Because when people cannot accomplish their goals, they're not going to be able, they will just give up. So set it in such a way that it will be as simple. I don't know what kind of businesses these people are in, but make it simple enough. It could be as simple as, say, if we have an event, whoever gets there first will get data. You get this. You will get a 30, 15 minutes of me talking to them, or whoever gets there first and logs in. You know, find different things that they can do without really having to break the bank, without them having to stress. You're just saying, get there early. That could be the beginning. Before you know it, everybody's rushing to get there. You start on time, you finish on time. And then if you have incentives, maybe those who can ask questions, because sometimes people are afraid to ask questions or they're shy and so forth. So you just go ahead and tell them that whoever asks the most reasonable questions that are in line with what we're talking about, go ahead and ask it. You can even have them write it down. If you think some people will have long-winded answers or questions, you can say, I have 3 cards here, whoever writes on it and gives us this, and we talk about. So you are getting them engaged is the whole idea. So once you get them engaged, then they will start building their confidence. Then you can now hit them with the real message that will help their businesses. My advice or my words of parting is, be empathetic. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. It's simpler. It makes you to have a better retention when you're that way. I mean, I'm not saying people won't take advantage, but don't worry about the advantage. If you focus on the other great stuff, those disadvantages will work for your good. Why keep churning staff and changing people because this person is not doing? But if you have a company and run it with your heart, and you're able to decipher when people are going out of their way to cheat you or take advantage of you, you don't assume that they're always going to do that. Just give them the benefit of the doubt, because most people are nice people, just a percentage that are not quite nice. So if you have that mindset, nice people will come your way. And if you have that mindset that, oh, everybody's out to get you, those are the people you would attract, and it's not going to be worth it for your business growth. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Watch the space. Like I always say, watch out for the next one. It's going to be something different. Trust me. We'll always come up with something different and something very educating and impactful. Do not miss the next session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, and have a good night rest.